What's going on, guys? What's going on? Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and it is so good to see everybody in here. Come on in, hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. And tonight we are going to have a barbershop conversation. And the reason we're having a barbershop talk is because one of the brothers I have here today is Jabari Natur out of Baltimore, and he runs Conscious Heads Barbershop. And so I figured, just in honor of Jabari and all the great, brilliant people I met in Baltimore, we would do like a barbershop talk. And I think this is needed because there's a whole situation going on with Dave Chappelle. And Dave Chappelle has been he's been getting it, from certain folks, mostly white folks, about his recent Netflix special. I think it's called The Closer. And so out of respect for Conscious Heads Barbershop, and also what was it?
Reflection Eternal.
Reflection Eternal, run by Sundiata out of Baltimore. We've decided to do a barbershop talk. All right, so let me introduce my guests today, the individuals that are here. I mentioned Jabari Natur out of Baltimore. He is the president, CEO, and founder of Reality Speaks, as well as Conscious Heads Barbershop. And Jeff Lightsey Jr., a.k.a. Lil Stephen A. Smith, who is on the Black Ball channel every day. And y'all know Jeff. Y'all seen Jeff on this platform. How y'all brothers doing today?
Doing fine, doing wonderful. Glad to be here.
Same as well, Dr. Boyce. Always.
Good. Glad to see you guys. And how's everybody else doing here? I see Michael and Diddy and Mangana and Chris Jefferson, Tatiana. Give me a yes or no, everybody. How many of you, yes or no, how many of you have been following this interesting controversy with Dave Chappelle and his new Netflix special and all the pushback he's been getting? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you have observed any of this. And also let me know if you've seen Dave Chappelle's special, if you've watched it. My wife watched it, a little bit of it earlier, and she said she wanted me to watch it with her tonight so that we could kind of do a conversation, because they're actually talking about canceling, or they're trying to make calls to cancel Chappelle's whole thing. So I'm gonna start with Jeff. Jeff is a trained journalist. We got smart Black men in the building. Jeff is a journalist. He tends to just know all the facts, a lot of facts that a lot of people don't know. So Jeff, I'll just start with you, man. What is the latest in terms of the backlash with Chappelle and everything else?
Well, Chappelle's getting a lot of heat from the LGBT community, right? Because Chappelle makes jokes in the special. The big one that caught everybody's attention, even if you haven't seen it, you've probably seen this clip, was him talking about DaBaby and how DaBaby got canceled by the LGBT, and essentially all his concerts across the country, a lot of them were canceled because of his statements he made about AIDS when he was at Rolling Loud, I want to say, in front of thousands and thousands of people. But Chappelle brings up the fact that, yes, a lot of his shows and people disassociated themselves from DaBaby because of his statements on AIDS in front of Rolling Loud. But DaBaby actually killed someone. Like, this is not speculation. This is not rumor, hearsay. Like, DaBaby actually shot, what Chappelle says, shot a nigga. And his fame got bigger than ever, right? But in the DaBaby's defense, I will say Chappelle was making a joke, but it had serious connotations around it. DaBaby was fighting for his right, like he was self-defense. It was claimed self-defense, and that's why nothing really ever came of it. So I want to put that out there. But the fact that has never been brought up, that's not what got him canceled. That honestly, being known would actually boost his record sales, because we love to talk about killing our people. But as soon as he said something, he didn't even say anything about LGBT directly. He just said, if you ain't doing stuff in the parking lot with other men and you ain't got AIDS, make some noise, right? And so that's what led to all his backlash. And so in the backlash that Chappelle is receiving because of this proves his point. It literally proves his point that if you make someone of that community upset, then they'll try to come after you. They'll try to cancel you. They'll try to take every away from you. The one thing I'm glad that Chappelle is doing is he's not being buck broken. And that's one thing I definitely salute for sure.
All right. So Jabari, it's I saw this kind of go down, and it's real interesting, right? I think that what Jeff just said is right, that they're kind of proving Dave's point. I think somehow somebody told us that if you are gay, you can't be racist. That you got all these other groups that have their own issues and their grievances, and we're not anti anybody. It's not a matter of being anti, But it seems like a lot when I look at racism and white supremacy, or people just thinking they could treat black people in any old kind of way, it seems like that treatment is worse from people who think they have a right to do that. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think that they sort of feel like, well, because we're liberals, we have the right to really come after you in a certain way, or what do you think about something? Or is this racism at all to you?
Of course, it's racism, and it's like, I mean, I just want to go back to what the brother was saying, is that like these rappers a lot of times, you know what I mean, the way we're dying in our community from from drugs, from drug overdoses, from just like us killing black on black violence in the community, and the stuff that when we did the movement, when I met you, Dr. Boyce, the movement was the LGE movement, which meant life-giving energy or love-giving energy in the community, and that was the movement because we said that people should have been in an uproar in our community because of the promotion of the killing, the drugs, going to jail, and all those different things. You know what I'm saying? So like these people are talking. I mean, they were talking a lot about this. A lot about this. You know what I mean? So I mean, people should be in an uproar about the lyrics that's in the music already. And like you said, this guy actually killed somebody. He actually killed somebody, and that wasn't a big problem, But they can talk about, make music about shooting each other, killing each other, long as it's black on black. But if he was talking about killing other people, killing other folks, then it wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be a problem, but it's only a problem. I mean, so that's what the big thing is. They promote these lyrics over and over again to our community. And he says this one thing, and they're in an uproar, canceling stuff, but they should be canceling shows because of what he already been said, if that's what it's going to be, the promotion of drugs in our community. I was just looking at an interview by young Juice WRLD, who died from an overdose. And and he was talking about when he was 11 or 12 years old that he heard Future talking about different things about drugs, the Dirty Sprite album, and that made him want to use drugs. And that young guy died of a drug overdose. So we should have been in the uproar from some of the things that's been said by hip hop artists. I love hip hop. I am hip hop. I'm not hating. But I'm talking about the state of our community. I'm talking about the black on black violence. I'm talking about the drugs that's in the community. I live in an area right now where you go to Pennsylvania Avenue in Baltimore, where it's zombie land up there. And it's sad to see our people walking around like that.
Well, sir, you have to leave this podcast because you, sir, are a hater. You a hater. Why you hating? Why you up here hating? Talking about like not killing black people and stuff. What's wrong with you, man? Something wrong with you. You a hater. I'm gonna give you a little taste of what I get when the rappers get mad at me. I get calls, man. I got a call from a friend who it's a decently well-known rapper, and he was like, well, Doc, I don't want the rappers to think that you don't like them. You don't like them. I'm like, I love rappers. I just don't like people who kill black people, and neither should you. There's a picture of Juice WRLD, by the way. That's a young black man who could have become many things in his life, but instead he is a man who died from a drug overdose. And
Juice was like 21. He's like 20. He was pretty young. Yeah. He wasn't old at all. Like he was like 20, 21 years old.
Yeah. And I think it's crazy to me. I mean, it's real ridiculous to me that I mean, you talk about some old brainwashed butter biscuit eating nonsense. Who made you think that it's okay to trade money for the future of your children? Seriously, there's no amount of money this brother could have made, no number of hits he could have had, no amount of fame he could have had that will be worth dying at the age of 21. Right. Even Jeff, how old are you, Jeff? What are you, 26?
I'm 25. Yeah, I'm 25, man.
25, right? Yeah. So, and even somebody as young as Jeff, you think about all the things that have happened probably in your life since you were 21.
Absolutely.
Think about all the things that are going to happen in your life between 25 and like 50 or 60 or 70. Like he lost all of that.
Exactly.
All of that. Tupac lost all of that.
That's crazy.
Man. So I think that we got to have some common sense conversations around this stuff. So anyway, do me a favor, everybody. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. I'm here with Jabari Natur and also Jeff Lightsey Jr. And I'm gonna give Jabari's information as well, so you can follow him. And by the way, Reality Speaks Jabari it's on Instagram. You got an Instagram?
We creating it, so we got a Facebook right now. Reality Speaks on Facebook.
Okay, so
we do have Reality Speaks Tubman City. I think it's called Reality Speaks Tubman. So I'm gonna check and I'll get that straight for you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So I'm gonna put that information up, and also Jeff, I'll put your information. All right. So here's the thing. All right. So with Dave Chappelle, one of the things that was really interesting too is in terms of this sort of paternalism that we get from white liberals. One of the critics was actually a person from that movie. What was it? Dear White People.
Yeah.
And it was a person who was an executive producer on the film, and I'm gonna try to find the person's picture so you can see him, and then I'll give you it's a her, the person is transgender, and I'm not here to make fun of that, none of that, right? I'm not gonna lie, when I grew up we didn't have a lot of people that could just be like, okay, I'm a boy now I want to be a girl, but it's fine. Right, we're not here to be anti anything, but it's interesting, right? So I was like, okay, who is this person that that feels they have this authority to come in and say these things, and sort of go into this whole process of canceling Chappelle, we're canceling Netflix, all this other stuff. And so here's the person, and I don't have their name in front of me. I'll look at Jacqueline Moore. Right. And you see Jacqueline with Dave Chappelle, and Jacqueline has basically accused Chappelle of being just transphobic, homophobic, I'm sure, and a lot of other things. And Jacqueline's argument is that Dave's words, by him allegedly being transphobic or whatever the case may be, that it increases violence against trans people. And now I did not hear anything. I didn't, maybe there's something in the special. I don't know.
I'll tell you what it is. So
what did Dave say?
During the special, Dave says that gender is a fact, right? He said if you're born a man, you are a man. If you're born a woman, you are a woman. He said there really shouldn't be a debate on gender. And I mean, honestly, Dave just is saying what a lot of, especially black people, especially black men in particular, believe in. Think about it, Dr. Boyce, Mr. Jabari. If y'all have mothers, right? We all came from a woman. And this is what Dave kind of alludes to, and I'm going to expound upon it. He says we all came through a woman, through her legs or C-section or whatever, but he says we all come through her legs. I got a mom. You all have moms. No offense to Jacqueline or whoever that is. You can't tell me they're the same. Yeah, there's no way you can tell me a man who decides to be a woman is the same as my mama. Ain't no way. Like, there's no way you can prove that to me. There's no way in hell I'm going to agree with you. I can respect you and your pronouns or whatever you believe in, right? Like, I can respect that. But we can't say you're the same. But women have go through too much through their, with their bodies, what happens to them on a daily and all kinds of stuff, to sit there and say that a man, if I'm Jeff, who is a man, and if I decides to be Jessica tomorrow, that we're the same. It's just, and that's essentially what Dave says, and I completely agree with him.
Yeah.
Yes, Jabbar?
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things that he said that, he said a lot of times you see this and really know when you see his comedy is that he be on those white, I be on white people. I be on white people. And now all of a sudden you saying that, and we got y'all up against the wall. We got y'all against the wall and we making some headway. And next thing you know, like, haha, we switching the struggle. Now, this is the new fight right now. You know what I'm saying? Now that y'all got us, now we creating this new atmosphere. I mean, all of us, our people come here as enslaved Africans here. You know what I mean? And the worst treated human beings on the planet Earth. That wasn't our struggle back then. You know what I mean? He talks a little bit about that, but that wasn't our struggle back then. Our struggle was getting freedom, families, you know what I mean? Getting sold by different slave masters and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? But our struggle was to get free, to be humane, to be, to find some freedom. So that was our struggle back then. And now all of a sudden they create these new struggles, these new things, because they create different tastes. And that's the big problem that we have. We're not hating on anybody else, but y'all give us all these different things. Oh, now you can like this. This is out here. So you can go and like this now. Now you can like this, and it's okay to like this. But y'all creating different tastes for our people. The same way you do for food. You know what I mean? They run pizza commercials, McDonald's commercials. They show that new hamburger and those new fries and stuff to create a taste in our mouth. You know what I mean? For certain things. Do hip hop music, they create a certain taste. That's why all they talk about, you know what I'm saying? Gun, drug. It creates a certain culture and a certain taste. You know what I mean? So now they created all of this confusion. And I'm talking about the white power structure, create all of this confusion within our community. So we forget what the struggle was supposed to be. We forget what we're supposed to be fighting for and fighting about. So that's basically what Dave is really talking about. I mean, I watched the special. It was actually pretty good. I mean, he said some very shocking things Now, I don't even know if some of the stuff is true because he said, I don't know, brother. You remember he said something at the beginning when he made a joke about a pastor. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, was that true? Or he kind of just threw it out there, and I'm like, whoa. When you say it, you'll see it's like a shock and awe. And then he kind of just moved forward, and he just moved on. But that was very shocking. You know what I'm talking. The quote I'm talking about, brother. When he,
I know what you're saying.
Wow, I don't want to spoil it for nobody, but
yeah.
Wow.
Now, what I'll say, Doc, I want to jump in really quick too. One thing that the reason why they're coming so hard after Dave, because he's one of the last mainstream celebrities, right? Mainstream celebrities to have a mind of his own.
Right.
He's one of the last mainstream celebrities that can't be bought. He proved that 15 years ago. He can't be bought. He has a mind of his own, and he says what we're thinking, right? Like Dave Chappelle, I imagine, is closer to you all's age than mine, right? But even at 25, I remember when things were one way, and obviously we adjust to change, right? So Dave started off in the 90s, right? So we're talking 25, 30 years ago, and things were a certain way in the 90s, right? And so now he is watching this shift for good or for worse, for better or for worse or whatever. He's watching this and he's just like, yo, like this is, and he is still willing to put his opinion out there. He's not, now some people like, Kevin Hart or Nick Cannon, they'll shy away from topics like this because it messes with the money, right? But Dave turned out 50 million 20 years ago from Comedy Central. So he clearly doesn't care. And they tried to kill him back then when they tried to say he was on drugs and he went to Africa and he was going crazy. So he's dealt with all of this before. That's why he's like, man, like, shoot, I don't got nothing to lose. They already tried to say I was crazy 20 years ago before cancel was a thing. They tried to cancel Dave Chappelle. You know what I'm saying? And so he's like, man, you can't cancel me. I came back stronger, bigger than ever. And I still have, and it's comedy. Like, comedy is made for jokes. It's made for laughs. It's made for entertainment. But in the great comedians, the reason why he's a legend, is because their comedy makes sense. It is the questions, and it brings up those things that most folks are afraid to talk about in public. It's maybe a conversation us three would have at Doc's house or at your house or at my house, right? But to have it in front of millions of people on a platform like Netflix is why Dave Chappelle is Dave Chappelle, and no one else can recreate that.
Everybody who's watching, we're talking about Dave Chappelle and the controversy with his new Netflix special called The Closer, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm gonna watch that tonight. If you could do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button right now. And y'all know that we are some brothers having some dangerous barbershop conversations. We can go to Conscious Heads Barbershop in Baltimore or Reflection Eternal and have these conversations, but we can't have these conversations on the internet anymore because they don't want to hear the voices of black men. Well, we want to hear the voices of black men, which is why we created the blackbosschannel.com. The URL's on the screen. I hope you will go right now and write down that URL. Go support the channel, subscribe, because we're going to represent your voice no matter what the price is. So I hope you'll come and join us. We do stuff on there every single day. We have brothers talking about everything from health to finance to relationships. And believe me, black men have an opinion and it should be heard. And sometimes it's different from everybody else. Now, speaking of black men, let me bring a person on the screen that I assume that Jeff's gonna know who this guy is, and this person comes up because I want to make the connection between this person and Dave Chappelle. What's the name of that person? Somebody tell me who that person's name is. Who's that on the screen? You can go ahead and say it, Jeff. Oh, Jeff is muted. Let me unmute him. Wait,
my bad. That's Mr. Kyrie Irving. I had my phone was going off, but yeah, that's Mr. Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, so the reason I bring up Kyrie Irving is because I had a debate with actually another black man whose opinion I respect. He was a professor like me, and we were talking about Kyrie, and Kyrie's under a lot of interesting fire, and you can give us the update on it, Jeff. It's all about getting the jab, and people are saying, oh my God, he's going to lose, almost $400,000 a game. I think it's $380K or something crazy. And my friend was basically saying, this is insane. He said, Boyce, if you talk to Kyrie Irving, you tell him that is crazy and stupid to give up, that much money over something this silly, something this simple, something that's this stupid. And I said, look, I'm not. I said, look, my position is very basic. I just believe in freedom. I don't know why freedom is such a complex idea for so many people, but I said, I just believe the brother should do what he wants. It's his life, his money, his whatever. And I said, now imagine this. I said, maybe Kyrie And he said Kyrie's crazy. He's just marching to the beat of his own drum. What's wrong with it, right? And I heard this, right? And this is what I encourage everybody to do. You got to hear all the points of view so you can really understand what people are thinking, right? You got to respect their humanity. So I listened to him patiently, and I said I get it. I hear and understand where you're coming from. I said, but maybe Kyrie has figured out something that I personally figured out a long time ago, that the best way to be free, especially when you're a prominent black man in his position, or like him or Dave Chappelle, is when you can get over the addiction to money, right? And what I mean by that is this. Answer this question for me. Is Kyrie Irving ever going to go broke? Even if Kyrie gave up 80% of his future salary, is Kyrie ever going to be destitute in the poorhouse, living in the projects? He's not. So maybe Kyrie is thinking similar to Chappelle, which actually is how I think as well, which I understand. I don't know why it's complex, and I want everybody to pay attention. This is why you don't want to be a hardcore capitalist, because a hardcore capitalist mindset says, if I made 100 million and you put another 50 million in front of me, I need to still sacrifice everything, all my freedoms, all my rights, all my everything to get that last 50 million. Because I'm like a hungry dog who's got to eat every piece of food on the plate. But maybe you can say, look, I made enough money. Right? Money is supposed to liberate you. It's not supposed to make you into a super slave. And so some of our celebrities, they done made, I'm like, wait a minute, done made $10 million a year for the last 15 years, and you still selling out for the money? I can understand that. I can understand a broke dude. I can understand if you take a 17-year-old from the projects, who ain't never had nothing, who's barely trying to feed his little siblings and whatever, and he does whatever to get money, that makes sense to me. But when you done made $100 million damn dollars and you still selling out, then what's the point? Like, that don't make no sense. You a drug addict who always needs more drugs. Like, you should be content. So what you see with Kyrie and you see with Dave is that's what money's supposed to do. Money's supposed to free you. Well, you say, look, I'm good now. Now you can't buy me no more.
Right.
What do you think? Jabbar, I'll go with you first, and then Jeff. I'd like to hear your response.
I was just saying that Dave Chappelle was following the rich legacy of Baba Dick Gregory. Baba Dick Gregory, he took a lot of cuts back then, but he was brave. He actually talked about things that many people didn't want to talk about. And them talking about white folks, going in front of all these crowds of white folks, and they just be laughing. But they could take it. They could, even though he was saying some stuff to them, but they could take it. But he's following the rich legacy of the great Dick Gregory. And one day, and this is before Arsenio Hall came back on, he got canceled. I don't know if y'all saw that show with Arsenio Hall, and Bill Cosby was on. He was on that show, and on that show, he gave a lot of props to. Matter of fact, all he talked about was Dick Gregory and the sacrifices that Dick Gregory made, because he was just saying he almost wished he would have made those sacrifices. He was saying he had a lot of respect for Dick Gregory for taking those sacrifices. The whole show, if you go back and look at it, that's all he talked about. He gave praises and props to Dick Gregory for the stances that he took and for the things that he did in our community and all. So Dave Chappelle is following that rich legacy, because somebody has to, because mostly everybody else is scared. Like you said, when you talk about Kevin Hart ain't touched. Matter of fact, Kevin Hart did a whole special that came on Netflix, just basically a whole apology about, the certain, so,
it was garbage.
It
was garbage. Yeah, it was trash. Like, let's just be honest. It was not good.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm just saying that,
Oh, go. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it seems to me like nothing is more boring and less funny to me than an emasculated black man. Like
trying to be politically correct, right? Because nothing about being black is politically correct. Let's be honest. The way we've been treated throughout the history of this country, that shit wasn't politically correct, right? When they had your ancestors in chains or brought them from Africa, or when they Jim Crow, mass incarceration, the literacy rate, or like whatever. Like, none of that's politically correct. But we gonna sit on our hands because, Massa told us to. Nah, man, get out of here. So when it comes to Kyrie, for those of you who don't know, Kyrie Irving plays for the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn is clearly in the city of New York City, which has a COVID mandate, or a V-word mandate, right? Has a jab mandate. If you do anything indoors, include basketball practice, basketball games, you have to have the jab, right? And so Kyrie, he hasn't spoken on it publicly much, but Kyrie is basically saying, my body, my choice. We hear that a lot. So it sounds like he's kind of standing on those wheels. And he has not been allowed to practice with the Nets since they've been back in Brooklyn. And so their season starts in about a week and a half. And so as of right now, he will not be allowed to play in games for the Nets. Now, this is interesting because New York City is a weird place, right? Because Kyrie, who plays for the Brooklyn Nets, he can't practice and or participate in games. And so he would miss, roughly 41 games if he holds strong, and which is $380, almost $400,000 a game he misses. But if you play for a visiting team, say I play for the Miami Heat, right? Who, Florida don't have no kind of jab mandates. They all whatever. If I play for the Miami Heat and I go play in New York City, I can still play. Why is that? I don't know. It's an interesting thing. So as of right now, Kyrie Irving, like I said, is standing on his morals. He is someone, I guess he has done his independent research. He is someone that's, as of now, has decided not to get the jab. And people are ostracizing him for it for a couple different reasons. One, because he plays a team sport. Basketball is a team sport, and Kyrie's really, really good. Like, right, if Kyrie was a bench warmer and he was some soup sandwich garbage, nobody would give a damn, right? But because Kyrie's actually, really, really good, really, really good at basketball, he's all up in the news, right? Because Kyrie is not the only person in the NBA who hasn't gotten the jab. He just happens to be the best player who hasn't gotten it, at least that we know of, right? So that is why so many people are talking about it. But 90%, you would never know that 90% of the NBA, or maybe more now, over 90% has the jab. So it's not like it's an ongoing problem in the NBA. Over 90%, 9 out of every 10 people have it. Whereas only 55% of Americans have it. So they making it seem like it's a big, deal because it's this one player who hasn't been buck broken, who isn't just sitting on his hands and standing up for what he believes in. And I applaud him for it, for sure.
Yeah, so Jabari, go ahead, Jabari.
No, I was just gonna say, our quarterback here in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. He's
shout out to Lamar.
That he's not gonna do it. Also, and he's had Corona 2 times.
Twice.
Twice. But he's made the same thing that I'm not taking the jab.
Everybody, sorry about that. Everybody, I'm talking with Jabari Natur and Jeff Lightsey Jr. And we're talking about Dave Chappelle and the racist backlash against Chappelle in his new special, The Closer. And we're also talking generally, having a barbershop conversation sponsored by Conscious Heads Barbershop out of Baltimore. And Jabari actually is a master barber and actually changed laws out in Baltimore to allow for more people to become apprentices, to become master barbers. And I don't know if you are into that kind of thing, if everybody's listening, or interested in it. You can actually go to blackbarberbootcamp.com. He has some good information set up. It's like a boot camp, right? Is that what you got?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So feel free to check it out. It might be something that you or your son or your friends might want to look into, because I believe that whole industry should belong to us, men and women's hair. Like that should be ours. And so let me ask y'all this. Okay, so what do you think is going to go, for Chappelle? I'll start with you, Jabari. Do you think that Chappelle's going to get? You think that they could really cancel him, or you think that he's gonna just get through this like he does everything else?
I think he's gonna get through it. I think Netflix is making way too much money from this right now.
Absolutely.
And the more people talk about it, the more controversy that he has. They know that it's going to sell. It's going to make them millions and millions and millions of dollars. Nah, he gonna go through the same thing he went through before, and he gonna overcome. Chappelle is he's a very strong brother, and he gonna be fine. He gonna be fine at the end of the day.
Okay, Jeff, what's your prediction for the future of Chappelle?
Dave Chappelle, nothing is going to come of this. And why? And a lot of black celebrities could understand this if they stood on their ground, high horse, and not easily getting to apologize and do these apology tours, right? Nothing's going to happen to Chappelle. Here's why. One, because of what Jabari said, he is probably the highest grossing comedian on Netflix, or one of them. I don't know the exact numbers, but Netflix gave him a big deal back in 2016 for a six special series, like 6 specials. And he has been getting them boatloads of money. And also, Netflix is scheduled to bring on the Chappelle Show. Remember, I don't know, guys, if you remember when Dave Chappelle was having that back and forth with Comedy Central, where they were putting it on different streaming platforms, and he wasn't getting paid from it, and he made a fuss about it, and then he got his royalties, right? He got his show back. And so that show is coming to coming to Netflix. And if you thought this special was bad, because the folks must have forgot who the hell Dave Chappelle was, because once his special gets to Netflix, you're gonna see a whole lot worse than what we saw on The Closer. I can guarantee it. Mark it down. You're gonna see a whole lot worse. And his comedy is super conscious and super funny because it's real, right? Like whether you go back 20 years with Dave Chappelle or up until this week where The Closer comes out, it is super, super real. And I think also when we look at criticism, right, especially criticism upon black men on topics of like LGBT and stuff, we gotta cite the source, right? So the source that's actually coming after making the biggest fuss about Dave Chappelle is the National Black Justice Coalition. And this is what they call themselves: a civil rights advocacy group dedicated to empowerment of the black LGBT community. Like, let's think about that. So they basically are a civil rights group, but only focuses on one group of people.
Wow.
That within the black community. Last I checked, there were more black people that weren't just gay, like that. So, or weren't just part of the LGBT community. So, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know how credible of a source, and I never heard of this group before. This Dave Chappelle special. So, like, I think we also have to always pay attention to who the criticism is actually coming from. Who are they funded by? Who are they backed by? And what that also means as well.
Right. That part, man. That was great. That was a very astute point you just made, because you're right. It all comes down to who, where's the money coming from, right? That determines who gets that platform, whose voice gets heard. And also remember that one of the critics is the executive producer. I think that it looks like that critic was white, Jacqueline something, who happens to be trans. And again, this is not anti anybody. This is just a fact. And Jacqueline was one of the executive producers on this film, Dear White People. And one of the things that people are probably not aware of, I'm more sensitive to it because I spent over 20-some years on college campuses, is that on campuses, their vision of blackness is very different from what grassroots black folks are actually thinking and wanting and believing. Their vision of blackness tends to be based on what they would refer to as intersectionality, or these allies, lots of allies, right? Which leads you to falsely conclude, which I used to conclude back when I was young and impressionable and in my 20s. I used to conclude that white liberals were the greatest ally of black people. That, if I went and showed up and voted for the Democrats and lined up with the feminists, lined up with the LGBT community, that was like I was being part of the group I belonged in. Absolutely. And then what you find is that there are these cultural clashes where black folks are like, we're not down for that. Especially as things got more and more interesting, like debatable, very highly debatable topics, like can a man just decide he wants to be a woman and then become a man again? A lot of black folks don't get all that. They see. I was cracking up, man, when I saw those those girls that were running track in what was it?
In Connecticut, up in the Northeast,
and we're kicking the girls' asses, right? And I'm like, yeah, you're gonna kick girls' asses because you was a dude a year ago. You know what I mean? Right?
No, not a year ago. You was a dude yesterday. Yeah, it wasn't no year ago. Like, that's the truth.
Yeah, like when Joe Rogan, shout out to him. He was talking about the MMA fighters. He said, if you were ever a dude at any point in your life, you should not be cage fighting with a woman.
No,
absolutely.
Like that,
crazy. You're legally beating women's asses. I know guys who beat women's asses. Those are not good men.
Not at all.
Those are not good dudes, right? This idea. So again, without look, I believe everybody has a right to believe what you want to believe, but you better not believe that you can make me believe what you believe, especially if what you believe is bullshit. Right? If it don't make no sense to me. I'm not doing that just because everybody else says it's okay. So that's why you got to love Dave Chappelle, because
absolutely
he's speaking his truth, and that's what great comedians do.
Absolutely,
I wish Kevin Hart would go take notes. Like, stop being such a bitch. Like,
right.
It's too much money for Kev though. It's too much money. Kevin Hart's one of the highest grossing comedians in history. Why? Because he straddles the line, right? If somebody, if he gets out of line, they pat him back. He goes to apologizing, right? Like you said, Doc, when you make those points though nowadays, what are you called? You're called toxic masculine. You're called homophobic, trans. They start making up words and making up like, when the hell, what like I first heard, I swear on everything. I first heard toxic masculinity in an English course when I was 20 years old on the campus of Western Kentucky University. And I was like, what the hell is toxic about masculinity, right? Like what is toxic about being a man? I never understood that you could be a toxic, like I understand there's toxic people, but if there's toxic masculinity, where's the toxic femininity, right? Like we've never heard that term before, but we're like, where is like, so because if you have one, then you have to have the other, correct, right? Like and then now it's like, oh, you're a toxic masculinity, but now you want to be a woman, so what is that? Like and like the stuff started changing, man. Like it's just like, whoa, like what is going on? And so some people, they call it stuck in their ways or whatever, but they're genuinely confused. Like stuff can actually be confusing and you can actually be denigrated by not agreeing with it. Like just because now I don't have to disrespect you, but you can't force me to agree with it if I think it's silly, right? Like if I think that woman or person or whoever, whatever you want to call, is the same as like I brought up my mother earlier. Like my mother is like a woman. You can't tell me that person who was Billy Bob yesterday decides to be Brittany whatever tomorrow is the same as my mama. Like, I mean, there's no way in hell you're ever gonna convince me of that. And I'm sorry. Like, you can call me whatever you want, but it's just the truth of the matter.
Well, so Jabari, let me throw this out there because one thing this allows me to mention something you have, Reality Speaks, and I encourage everybody to take a look at that platform because you actually did something that I thought was really special that really was unique in Baltimore that isn't being done in a lot of places. Is with Reality Speaks, you all have been providing platform spaces for those alternative ideas, for those Black ideas that are rooted and centered and originated from the Black community. And that's why I really respect what you all do, because there's a lot of well-known people out here who've been in Hidden Colors movies and everything else who have come through, Reality Speaks in your platform and been allowed to share their voice, right? And I was one of them. I was, when y'all were inviting me in, mainstream media ain't gonna invite somebody like me in. White universities don't want people like me around, because we're gonna challenge their ideas. And so it seems to me that as Black people, it's rather than being upset about what they're doing, we have to create our own spaces where we're able to express our point of view. Can you kind of speak to that in terms of, because you've had Francis Cress Wells and Dick Gregory come through many, many times, and a lot of other, you name some others that I missed because I know there's a ton. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we had people like Dr. Khaled Abdul Muhammad, and for those who know Dr. Khaled Abdul Muhammad, my mouth didn't know no Sunday. That brother was hardcore, and I can remember when I first met Dr. Khaled Muhammad. I love that brother, and and he said to me one day, he said, "Man, Brother Jabari," he said, "it's nice to finally meet you," because I called this guy over and over and over again until I got him here to town. And he said, "Man, you the one out here driving these white folks crazy down here in Baltimore," and so I, so having that history, bringing people like Khaled, because Khaled couldn't go nowhere like that. We brought Dr. Francis Cress Wells, and these are the odd Scott. This is the whole Black cultural side of things, the revolutionary way of thinking of people that we would actually bring out there. Dr. Francis Cress Wells or your Dr. Ashaka Musa Barshangos and your Tony Browders, brother Tony Browder, who always, we do a lot of things with him, the author of the Broader Files. He does trips and stuff back and forth to Africa. But we had, we Sister Soldier. We've had Sister Soldier on our, on our platform. I can't get her now. I've been trying to get Sister Soldier forever, but she won't come for me. Can't get in touch with her. I would love to get in touch with her, to be able to do something with her. But yeah, we had her back in the day. There's a brother named Ashraf Kwesi that many need to know about, because this brother was one of the people that definitely transformed my way of thinking, and who taught me stuff about Africa and African Center history. You can check that brother out, look him out. There was Dr. Layla Africa, but we provided our logo. Our slogan is information plus Black power breaks the chains. So man, it was just an honor. We brought Dr. Claude Anderson. We bought Steve Coakley back in the day. From Steve Coakley, I'm trying to think of more people, but it's been over like 150 different lecturers that we got. Del Jones, I don't know if y'all know about Del Jones. We brought him to town. And I'll keep thinking of many different names that on top. Dr. Patricia Newton, who's now an ancestor now. She was definitely somebody to talk to here in Baltimore and Tubman City. So it's been an honor for us to be able to, as Brother Malcolm said, you've been given one side of the coin. You get one side. The news media gives you what they want to give you, but to get the other side of the coin, and then you can make a decision about what's going on. So he so that's what we've been trying to provide. To give people that other side of the coin, and that's what we've been doing for 26 years through Reality Speaks. With many of these great speakers and great lecturers, such as yourself. We've had Dr. Umar Johnson in the early years, the early Dr. Umar Johnson.
Before Umar became the Umar. And I think that's super important. And I put that URL where y'all can find out more about it if you want to support this kind of thing, because that's important. This is Black media. This is the lecture circuit that we deserve to have. Because what happens is, people don't understand this. I'm a college professor. I've been doing it for a long time, and I didn't until I was probably about 42 years old figure out that universities aren't just places where you learn; they are places where you are indoctrinated into specific ideas. Like American universities are indoctrination factories for white liberal ideologies. If you go talk to most students who use a lot of terms that we didn't even have a decade ago, transphobia, homophobia, toxic masculinity, just whatever, all these other words that they kind of come out with. In fact, there's a word TERF, TERF, which I swear that it wasn't mainstream anyway.
Chappelle talks about that. Chappelle talks about that in the special. They called J.K. Rowling a TERF. Yeah, and I think that it was something. Let me see, trans exclusive radical feminist. Right, that shit didn't exist in the 90s. Like, that wasn't around. You know what I mean? So they are sitting around. Seriously, this stuff comes. That didn't exist 2 weeks ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was made. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
every year they tell you that there's a new number of genders out. Like I don't know if y'all saw this. Like, I think they were like, there's 180 different. Not that wasn't something like, but I don't remember the exact number. I don't want to sound crazy, but seriously, it's like, and this comes out of the big white universities. Now, they are not terrible places. They're not places where you can't learn. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying though that they are sometimes so assertive and aggressive about pursuing their own agenda that they decidedly crush the Black agenda. Black people are their pets.
Exactly.
Right. That's how they see you as they use you, the way they use any other resource, the way they use the bathroom, or the way they use their car. And so when you get so if you watch a movie like this one, which I was tempted to watch, but I couldn't really get through it. Watch a movie like Dear White People. I can identify. That's right. I can identify. Don't get me wrong. I can identify with what they're going through as Black college students, because I was one and I taught them for many, many years. But what I saw is what I typically see. What I saw in this movie, and I typically see this in general, is this package that says that because you're Black, here's a whole long list of other ideas that you have to accept that are not entirely consistent with the Black tradition in America, right? And that's why, and so to give you a specific example, that I remember being very surprised when I think it was Cal State Long Beach, the Black Student Union of Cal State Long Beach invited me and Farrakhan to come down there and speak. And I was like, that's very surprising that the students were that alert to their Blackness and the nuances of it, that they would have somebody like me and Farrakhan come to their campus, because white campuses don't. They tell you Farrakhan is a terrible person and that he's all these things that he's not. He's never. Oh, he's dangerous to Jewish people. What? Well, show me a Jewish person he's beaten up, attacked, or ordered to be killed. He ain't done none of that. Stop that. Right. So we went down to this campus and spoke. And let me tell you what they did. This tells you that, see, they're strategic with it. You got to pay attention now. They got the Black LGBT students to go to the event and to protest Farrakhan. Right, and they get the Black ones to make sure that it's not seen as a racial issue and all that. That's where organizations like that National Black Justice Coalition that just popped out of nowhere. That's where they come from. They create this. They manufacture this so that they can. So you can't say, well, you're being racist, because white liberals think they can't be racist when sometimes they're the most racist out there. Malcolm X told you that. So what the students did was they went to Farrakhan's. I was speaking after Farrakhan, so he's speaking, and they all took a bunch of seats, and then right in the middle of his speech, they all got up and walked out, right, just to show disrespect. And my problem with that was not that you disagree with Farrakhan. I think he's okay with you disagreeing with him. I've seen how he deals with adversaries, even enemies. It's a really amazing process that a lot of people can learn from. But what I did have an issue with is I said, okay, so you're telling me that these white folks, who cared nothing about you and your family 20, 30 years ago. Farrakhan was fighting for you before you were born, right? Mm-hmm. None of these white folks would have taken a bullet for you, would have defended you. In fact, they might have been the ones shooting the bullets at you 30, 40 years ago. But now suddenly you're more loyal to this institution and to these people than you are to the people that are respected in the Black community. So I'm not asking you to agree with what I believe. I'm just asking you to show some damn respect. Just say, I think I appreciate what you've done. I just don't agree, right? I think that's okay. So what I want people to understand is that what you're seeing happening to Chappelle is nothing more than an extension of what one might refer to as a cultural and intellectual imperialism, where they come in, they stomp in like stormtroopers and say, this is what y'all Negroes need to do. And the reason I applaud Chappelle is because he's standing up against it. Now I've said a lot. I want you guys to get the last words. And before I do that, if everybody could take 1 second, please hit the thumbs up button. Whatever platform you're on, please subscribe. We need to build our own platforms. And I'm going to put the Black Boss channel URL up so you can also subscribe to the Black Boss channel, because that's where Black men have conversations. We need to have spaces where Black men can talk, because media doesn't want to hear from Black men unless you rapping, playing ball, whatever, or you cooning. Right, this is the no coon zone. Everybody's been protected against all that nonsense, because that's the virus. The coonery is a virus. We gotta bend the curve. But anyway, so let me go with you, Jeff. Do you have any final thoughts, on this issue?
Yeah, absolutely. Just really quick on your Farrakhan thing. The thing is, people will tell you they don't like Farrakhan, but they can't tell you why, right? Nobody can point to a moment where he was anti-Semitic. Nobody can point to a moment where he was just this big hateful person, right? Like nobody can they just, because it's said so loudly and so many times, it's just, one of those mind tricks where you just believe it because you heard it. I was introduced to Farrakhan as a little kid, and so when I got older and saw that people actually hated him, I couldn't understand it. I was like, what? Has anybody actually listened to this man speak? Like, has anybody actually listened to what the man says? Yeah. Like, it never made any sense. But the final point is, you will never see Black, whether it's Black men, Black women, Black as a collective, able to really move as masses as long as they continue to try to get the white man's dollar. Right, unless you figure out a way to create your own economic base, whether it's starting a business, learning how affiliate marketing, the stock market, whatever, real estate or whatever, you'll never be able to be total free, because at the end of the day, it comes down to economics, right? People don't speak like Dave Chappelle. They don't speak like Farrakhan. They don't speak like Dr. Boyce or Jabari or whoever, because they're afraid of losing a paycheck. They're afraid that their kid, themselves, their wife, girlfriend, whoever won't be able to eat, because if somebody white who's the boss heard them talk, they won't get the paycheck. And so once you establish a level of economic freedom for yourself, you will be able to say whatever the hell you want, and then you won't be as scared of the white man or whoever taking away your right to eat and your right to say whatever you want to. So those are my final thoughts.
That's right. I just want to speak to you, like, there's specific tactics, like back in the 60s, called COINTELPRO, that the FBI and many different people put out to actually counterintelligence program. And these things were specifically aimed at, getting rid of the Black Power movement during that time, so they came up with specific strategies that they still do to this day to mislead us. Even when you look at hip hop, to take over hip hop, they got Big Daddy Kane versus the verses coming up, you know what I mean, Big Daddy Kane and the KRS-One, two of my favorite rappers. But when you hear those rappers in those times, they were talking about black issues, you know what I mean? Kane Asiatic, none equal, you know what I mean? Not cocaine. He wasn't talking about cocaine, you know what I'm saying? But they were talking about a lot of different things in the community. But COINTELPRO, those specific tactics, when they actually, you start to see the hip hop start to change and the takeover, somebody put their hand in there and misled, you know what I mean? So a lot of the rappers now have to stay on script, and they have to say these things. They have to talk about drugs, killing, crazy sex, and you know what I mean, and going to jail for the most part, you know what I mean? So that's the psychology that they want us to have, because they don't want us to take that Black Panther, that hard, you know what I mean, that independent way of thinking. So they try to control our thoughts and our thinking. But best believe at the end of the day, this structure, they try to control us by putting these different things out there and having us saying certain things. So Dave Chappelle, you know what I mean, he can be independent. He says things, he's taking a road that many are scared to do. Like you said, the Kevin Hart, he ain't got the heart to stand up and do it. You know what I mean? A lot of other people, they not going to actually do it because they're controlled by that power system. And that's why we have to get power so that we can say and do some of the things. I love the KRS-Ones, like I said, and all those folks from Big Daddy Kane to many of the people who have made me who I am today. You know, so I love that. And so we gotta get the heart so that we can stand up and we can fight back and get the power we need in our community, so we won't have to, you know, shut our mouths or be quiet. And big up to Dave Chappelle for taking a stand.
Well, let me ask Jeff, do you know who that group is?
There you go. Yeah.
We're gonna do a mind trick on the 25-year-old. You know this group, Jeff?
Yeah, y'all got me on this one.
Let educate Jeff a little bit on.
Got me on that.
Really cool. Or just what hip hop looked like before the takeover, before it became all about killing Black people and getting hooked on drugs. And
I see the onks, I see the African ancestry, but I telling you who they are.
We gotta tell them, Dr. Boyce.
Oh, that group is called X-Clan. And X-Clan was a group. Heed the words of the brother, and they used to rap. All they rapped about was Black pride and the beauty of Africa and all the amazing things Black people have done. And KRS-One, one of his best songs I love was called "You Must Learn."
Yeah,
and he was literally rapping Black history, and it was as cool as Drake and all this stuff that people love that like now, like it was every bit as cool as that. Like there's nothing like that, a little Uzi Vert or 21 Savage could do that was cooler for us, at that time than what was being, than what was being done by them. And the difference was that when everybody listened to X-Clan, you started seeing the culture reflect that. Right. You started seeing people dress in a more Afrocentric way. They started taking pride in being Black. They wanted to be more intelligent. They wanted to learn, and then suddenly, like out of the blue, like early to mid 90s, all that just flipped. Like around the like about 93, 94, all the like really progressive groups that were telling Black people to do things like Public Enemies, like fight the power, and everybody go ahead. Suddenly like, bitches ain't shit, and I killed a Black man today, and I'm gonna go get high every Tuesday. Like it was like, damn, like so that's where the conversation comes, because because here's the thing, there's never been a more effective marketing vehicle than hip hop music. Like hip hop artists have always been the most influential. They were social media influencers before there was social media.
Absolutely.
Like it started really with the early story I remember was when Russell Simmons was trying to get Adidas to give a deal to Run DMC because they would wear those Adidas sweatsuits and all that, right? It probably sounds like old people stuff to Jeff because it's so long ago.
Like what's that?
But it's still relevant. The same ideas still apply. Right. And so basically, what he did was he brought the Adidas executives to a Run DMC concert, and he said, I want to show you the influence these guys have. So he told his brother Run, who's in the group, he said, hold up your Adidas. He said, tell everybody to hold up their Adidas shoe. Right. And he said, everybody put your Adidas in the air. And like 50,000 people were holding up an Adidas shoe. And Adidas is like, oh, shit. So they signed him to a deal because they saw that influence. So rappers have always been incredibly influential. So it is not out of the question.
That's right.
When you look at, the history of this government, when you look at, just some of the the operations that they conducted around the world, not just here in the United States, but all around the world, covert operations, it is not at all out of the question that they said, okay, we've got to find a way to control these Negroes. The number one way to control them is through the music. And to look at 20 years later, look at where a lot of young people are now. Not all of them, right? A lot of them have a lot of potential, but I ain't never met a black man who's got a great future when all he's trying to do at the age of 21 is get high every day. You know, and make babies mamas and pull out his strap and give all his money away. Like, you literally are completely fucking yourself for the next 40 years. And then you end up, dead by the age of 45. Like a lot of these rappers, now you're starting to see rappers dying at 45 years old because you ain't supposed to live that life, but they're making you think it's cool, and it's very difficult. So I want everybody to hear that, because you don't hear that anywhere else, right? Nobody's talking about it because people are like, oh, well, I'm making money. This is good. Yeah, they're paying you money to destroy your life and destroy your people. Exactly. So anyway, guys, I appreciate this, man. This was a blast. I had so much fun.
Absolutely.
And I want to say thank you all. Jabari Natur from Reality Speaks. I'm going to put his URL on the screen. Also, Jeff, let me put up, I'm going to put up Jeff's Instagram, J Lightsy7. Jeff Lightsy Jr. does commentary every single day. That's his Instagram, J Lightsy7. He's also on the blackbosschannel.com. There's a URL there. He's literally on there every day talking about sports. So if you're into sports, and he talks about a lot of other things.
Yeah, we talked about voting today. We talked about the cuts for HBCU funding. We talked about that, and we had a good time with that. That's why I'm wearing this vote shirt, because they made sure you got out to get your booty to the polls. But then they kind of took $40 billion away from your historically black colleges and universities. So that's why I'm wearing this. It was symbolic for sure.
All right. So as you see, Jeff is an intelligent black man, and we got a lot of intelligent brothers that come through there, and we need to support the voice of the black man. And then I'm gonna give you Jabari, if you want to check out his barber boot camp, here's a URL that will take you directly there, blackbarberbootcamp.com. Feel free to try that. And he's a master barber. He runs Conscious Heads Barbershop. His best friend, Sundiata, who also greeted me very warmly, both of these brothers, when I was in Baltimore. He runs Reflections Eternal Barbershop. Is that how I say it?
Yep.
Okay. Down in Baltimore. They are right near an amazing Black Wall Street that they have in Baltimore. And I think that we need to, as a community, tell each other about these great things that all of us are doing. And then also, if you want to go take a look and support some of the great Black-centric content that they're doing with Reality Speaks. Jabari, for 26 years, you said that podium that I spoke on, it was 26 years old, right?
26 years, yeah.
So it was older than Jeff.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a Black history artifact. That is like something that should be in a museum, because it was an honor for me to even be able to say I'm at the same podium that a Francis Cress Welsing was, a Dick Gregory. These are our heroes. So we got to make our own heroes, everybody. So last point, just a quick reminder to everybody, please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you have not done that yet. And also don't forget that the All Black National Convention happens in Orlando. That's where we're going to gather, and we are setting the agenda. We are making the rules. We are getting it done. Everything, economics, politics, relationships, family, children. We are defining our future, and we're not letting anybody else control this. So if you want to learn more about the convention, go to allblacknationalconvention.com. The URL is on the screen. Last but not least, college students, if you bring a student ID, you can get in free. Because we want you to have something that is an alternative to what you're hearing on these campuses, because some of what you're hearing is good, but a lot of what you're hearing is bad and very bad for the community. It's draining Black wealth, those student loans and all this other stuff. We want to just give you an alternative perspective. So college students with a student ID, you pay $0 to come through the door. So bring your friends, bring the whole Black Student Union, and we will love you. We will support you no matter what your background is. And just come ready to hear a perspective that's probably going to blow your mind. We're going to take you out the matrix. All right. So thank you guys. Thank you, brothers, so much. Did you, Jabari, you have one last point?
Yeah, I just want to say that people, if they join the Patreon, that we have an exclusive Dr. Boyce Watkins when he came to Baltimore. So we got that. That's exclusively there. So when you want to check that out, because that was a beautiful event. And Doc, I just want to say that people love you. They love you out here in Baltimore. Doc came up and he went. There was about 100 Black businesses out there, and he stopped at every last one of those tables. And young people, young brothers and sisters, taking all pictures. And they, that you Dr. Boyce. Wait a minute, for a second, he looked like Dr. Boyce Watkins. And as we went down, they love this brother. So I just want to let him know that the work that you're doing is transferring all throughout this world, you know, and you know, don't take that for granted with the work that you're actually putting in, and we appreciate you. And Jeff, it's been a pleasure to be here on this panel here with you today.
Likewise.
We're gonna do this again, and yeah, but that day at Baltimore was awesome. I mean, it was very moving, and when I see something like that, it makes me say, okay, how do we make sure everybody knows what's happening here, so you can replicate what's winning? That's what we got to do. We got, you know, they call that best practices. You know,
Yeah.
and my wife is a therapist, and she gathers with other therapists to find best practices, right? So if something's working, you share the knowledge so that everybody can do it. So I want everybody to peep out what they're doing in Baltimore. It was amazing, man, and I agree. It was really fun. It just felt good. You know, it reminded me of that Will Smith song, "Summer, Summer, Summertime."
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like it was nice weather. The children were playing. You know, families were out there doing business with each other. Black
Yeah.
folks, it was nothing but love, and I just really think that to me, that's just like a great vision for our community, and that's how we're gonna make Black people great again, so to speak, is by really re-embracing who we are and not letting other people tell us who we are. So anyway, everybody, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your attention. We do not take that for granted. Please take 1 second right now, if you could, hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button, and if you really want to help us, share this video so that other people can see it. And I guess I'll see a lot of y'all at the convention. So God bless you. Thanks a lot, Jeff and Jabari. And you guys have a wonderful day. We will see you soon. Talk to you later. Peace.